answers as we usually do, and then we will continue. Okay. A year of learning, Dr. Paul Koningsberg, in memory of his brother, Dr. Sam Koningsberg, Shimon Ruven ben Labish, and Ed Goldberg's cousin, Nissen Hara Nissen ben Fardosa. Paula and Bob Bromberg, in memory of their dear friend Julian Smith, Yehuda ben Yisrael. Malka Mann, in memory of her family murdered in the Holocaust. Harav Tzvi Hirsch ben Shlomo Yaakov, Sarah bat Ephraim, Yisrael David ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Ephraim ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Adia bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Miriam bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Pesel bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shalom ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shlomo Yaakov ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shmuel ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch. The many friends of Dr. Marvin Blush, Moshe Shalom ben Yitzchak Halevi, friends of Toby Paris, Saratova bat Yisrael Dov, friends of Malka Levi, Malka bat Yosef, friends of Avi Gitler, Avrameir ben Shimon, Cheryl Schur, her children and grandchildren, in memory of her uncle, founding member of BRS, Dr. Israel Brook, Yisrael ben Harav Akiva, Marcia Federbush and family, in memory of her husband, Dr. Uriel Paul Federbush, Uriel ben Rav Shimon. A month of learning by Charlie Gelfenstein, in memory of his mother, Dacia Gittelbas Meir Halevi, and his father, Meir ben Yaakov. Gila and Harold Saltzman, in memory of her mother, Eti bat Yitzchak Elchanan. Chaim and Phyllis Reese, in memory of his father, Mordechai ben Yom Tov Lipa. A week of learning by friends of Pauline and Gerald Feldman, in memory of their friend Gerald Feldman, Tzvi Hirsch ben Menachem Mendel. Today's the 17th, right? And that is it actually for today. May the Neshamas have an Aliyah, Krank Rafia Velti Yeshir Shema Taliyah, and the Chol B'nai Yisrael a good Gebench year.
Amen.
Okay. All right. Okay, I'm actually going to have us start back in the bottom of Tzadi Tet, Amud Beis with the Mishnah, okay? In the hopes that that will give us chance, number one, for the other fellows to get on, and also to clarify an issue as we go into this new piece of Gemara, which is a little bit complicated, as you can tell by the number of diagrams that at least Art Scroll has done for us. Okay, so Mishnah starts off, Ilan Shayam Mesach al Haaretz. Okay, here we're talking about a tree, okay, where the foliage, we said, covers a large area and hangs down. Point is, how far does the foliage hang down? Im eino fo gavoa min haaretz shlosha tfachim. Okay, if it's such that the foliage does not hang down, okay, above 3 tfachim. So in other words, it's within 3 tfachim, and why the Mishnah couldn't have said that, I don't know. Metaltalin tachtav, one can carry underneath it. Okay, sharshav gvo'ein min haaretz. Okay, if the, let's say the roots of the tree, okay, gimel tfachim, if the roots of the tree come up out of the ground, okay, and above the ground and are above 3 tfachim, lo yeshev aleihen, one cannot sit on the roots. Okay. Now, we've got really, I'll say, 2 different issues that the Gemara is going to have to at least deal with. Number one is the foliage span of the tree. Number two is the issue of the roots of the tree. So we pick up now Gemara. Amar Rav Huna, says Rav Huna, Berei the Rav Yoshua. Ein metaltalin bo yoter mi beit sa'atayim. That in that area, depending on how large the tree is, one cannot carry more than 2 beit sa'atayim. Okay? Mai tama, what's the reasoning? As we get now to Kaf Amud Aleph, Mishum dahave dira shetashmisha la'avir. Why? Because its habitation is such that it is for the use of the airspace. Now, what does that mean? The implication, okay, is that usually both the Art Scroll and Koren suggest that this was not real habitation, but this was for a watchman, okay, to be able to stand there and guard the surrounding fields. So it's not normal habitation, okay? And then the Gemara continues, V'kol dira shetashmisha la'avir, and any habitation that's used for open space, okay? Ein metaltalin ba yeter mi beit sa'atayim. One cannot carry within it anything that is further than 2 base seah. Okay. All right. That's where we left off yesterday. Right. So we're going to pick up there. Okay. And we're now, that seems to end the discussion of the foliage of the tree. Okay. So it's very clear that if the foliage hangs down, okay, between the ground level and 3 tfachim, because of lavud, we say that therefore it's like it's coming to the ground, and therefore it forms a partition, and one could carry in it a certain amount. Okay. We now get to the issue of the roots. Okay. Now, I want us just to quickly look at the diagrams on 100A1 using Art Scroll briefly, and you'll see that they're trying to show different possibilities for how the roots may grow. On one side of the tree, the root is equal to the ground level. On the other side of the tree, we have different examples of roots growing up and then back down. We have roots going just up and continuing to flourish up. Then we have other diagrams which we'll get to eventually. Okay? But for the moment, we'll see the following, says our Mishnah, citing back the section from the Mishnah. Shorashav gavo'in min haaretz v'chulei. Okay? That the roots, at least on one side of the tree, protrude up through the ground, okay, or above the ground, and then come back down. Itmar. Okay, it was stated about this. Shorshei ilan haba'im milamala mishlosha letoch shlosha. If you have the root, okay, of the tree going up and then coming back down within 3 tfachim of the ground level, okay? So that's the example of the diagram opposite note number 3, okay? That one's root goes up above 3 tfachim from ground level and then comes back down, right? Rabba, says Rabba, Amar mutar lehishtamesh bahen, that it's permissible to make use of the root. Okay, in other words, I assume to sit on it. Rav Sheshet Amar asur lehishtamesh bahen, that it's forbidden to make use of it. Okay, Gemara continues with an explanation. Rava Amar mutar lehishtamesh bahen. According to Rava, it's permitted to use them. Why? Dechol pachot mishlosha da'ara. Arahi. That any amount of the root, okay, that is below 3 tfachim, it's like the earth itself. It's like ground level. Right? Rav Sheshet Amar asur lehishtamesh bahen. Says Rav Sheshet, it's forbidden to use those, make use of the roots. Why? The kevan de mikoach isur ka'ate, since they come from a prohibited source. Okay? Good morning. Okay? Namely, we're about a few lines down on Kaf Amud Aleph. About 10 lines down, everyone. Okay? Okay? We're saying that the root now, it comes from a tree. And normally we know that it's prohibited to use, climb, make use of a tree on Shabbat.
Right.
So therefore, if it comes from a prohibited source, asurim, it should be prohibited. Didamu kim shunita. Why? Because it's considered like a, well, Art Scroll translates it as mountain peak. Okay? Koren translated it as like a rocky crag. Okay? In either case, it's extending beyond the surface. All right? Desalkim la'ila. Okay? In other words, that since it rises above asurim, it's prohibited. Dinachtin l'tatai, if it goes below, okay, sharu, the rabbis permitted. L'tzadin, if it goes out to the sides, plugta de rabba v'rav sheshet. That's where we have the machloket, okay, between Rabba and Rav Sheshet, as whether permitted, okay, because it goes back below the 3 tfachim, or whether since it came out, all right, it's not permitted. And the Gemara then continues with a similar, v'chein anigra, and likewise, anigra is a ditch, okay? That's the picture we have, okay, on the right-hand side of 100A1, okay? The upper picture, okay? That the part of the roots are in a ditch. Okay? It's not a great picture, okay? If you've got large version of Art Scroll, maybe it's a better picture, okay? Maybe even in color, okay? But in the Koran, the pictures are in color, okay? And therefore you can see that part of the roots down into the ditch, part of it comes up out of the ditch, okay? V'chein b'keren zavit, okay? And likewise, when the tree is in the corner, okay? And that's the diagram, the picture opposite 10, note 10 there. Okay, that it's walls on side, right? So the question is, does the roots of the tree go under the walls? Okay, and therefore, or does it go above the walls? Okay, hahu dikla dahava la'abaye. And then we get a little story thrown in here, similar to the example of the kind of tree, a decal tree, palm tree, that came up through the roof, the skylight in Abaye's house. The Havila Abaye, Vahava Salik Ba'ipuma. And it came up And that's the dot picture opposite note 11 or 12.
Very clear.
All right, there at least that picture is more visible, right? Right? Ata lakame de Rav Yosef, visharale. Okay, and he brought this question about using the lower part of the tree, and Rav Yosef apparently permitted it to him. Okay, in other words, from 3 tfachim below. Right? Now, Amar Rav Achabar Tachlifa. Okay, says Rav Achabar Tachlifa said to Abaye, okay, the Sharalach, that which Rav Yosef permitted you, Kivraba Sharalach, was based similarly on the perspective, the view of Rabbah. Okay, Pshita, that seems obvious, right? Mahu Datema, what then are you trying to tell us? Afilu the Rav Sheshet, Beta Keman de Male Dame. Okay, namely that the house is considered like it's full of solid matter, right? Full of things. V'lishtamesh b'pachot mishlosha samuch lagag kamash malan. And it comes to teach us that one part of the tree can be used so long as it's within the 3 tfachim of the roof. That's what it comes to teach us, okay? That's not the case. That area cannot be used, okay? Now, another part of the Braita. Tznan. This is another Braita to try to solve this machloket. Sharashav gvo'in min haaretz shloshat tfachim. We say now that the roots come above the earth 3 tfachim. So we can see that, for example, in the 100A2, the diagram opposite note 18, right? That the roots actually come above the ground level 3 tfachim, right? Shlosha tfachim. Lo yeshev alehen, says the Braita. One cannot sit on it. Hechidami, how is it possible? Idelo hadre kefe pshita. Okay, if it doesn't bend back, okay, into the ground, that's obvious. Elelav, but isn't it not the case? Afal gav da hadre kefe, that even though it bends back, no, that one can't sit on it. Le'olam de lo hadre kefe. Okay, we're saying here that generally it does not turn back. V'hakamash malan, and here it comes to teach us. Afal gav de tzido echad shaveh la'aretz, that even though the roots on the other side of the tree are equal to the earth, because this on one side of the tree, the roots go above 3 tfachim, it is not going to be permitted. Now, another Braita, okay? This one. Tanu Rabbanan, Sharshei Ilan shegvo'im min haaretz shlosha tfachim. Again, we get an example where the roots of the trees grow up above 3 tfachim. O sheyesh chalal tachtehen shlosha tfachim. Or the roots come up, okay, and there's an empty space. Again, look at the diagram opposite 18, note 18, that empty space there, right, of more than 3 tfachim. Afal pi shetzido echad shaveh la'aretz, even though on the other side of the tree, the roots are equal to ground level, harei zeh lo yeshev alehen. He is not permitted to sit on them. Okay? Lafi she'ein olin ba'ilan, because one may not go up the tree on Shabbat. Ve'ein matlin ba'ilan, nor can one hang or suspend from the tree on Shabbat. Ve'ein nish'anin ba'ilan, nor should one even, so to speak, lean against the tree on Shabbat. Okay? Velo ya'aleh ba'ilan mi ba'od yom, nor should one climb up the tree on Friday, okay, before Shabbat, right? V'yashev sham kol hayom kulo, and sit in the tree all day, okay? Right? Why one might do that? Maybe one has a tree house up there, and they put their eruv, okay? That's the only example I could come up with. Okay? And then furthermore, says the Braita, Echad ilan ve'echad kol behema. The same applies to the tree, and the same applies to an animal. Okay? The implication being clearly that one can't ride or sit or even lean on the animal on Shabbos. Okay? Of course, what's the reason, we're going to get to that in a moment. Okay? Aval bor, but when it comes to a cistern, a siach, when it comes to perhaps some sort of a ditch, uma'ara, or a cave, v'gader, or a fence, right? Metapes ve'oleh, one can climb and go up. Metapes v'yored, one can climb and go down. Va'afilu hein mea ama, even if it is 100 amos. Now, Gemara wants to bring us another, right, Braita, but this telling us as follows. Tana chada im Allah mutar liyared. We have one Braita that seems to say if one goes up, it's permitted to come down. Vatani chada asur liyared. And we have another Braita that now seems to say it's prohibited to descend. Okay, if you're, in other words, because you're not supposed to make use of the tree. Lo kasha. There's no problem here. Okay, to try to deal with this supposed contradiction. Kan mi ba'od yom, kan mishachashecha. In one case, we say it's when the person climbed up on Friday. Okay, and in another case, we said no, it's when the person climbed up after dark. On Shabbat had begun already. Then he's not allowed to climb down. V'bayit ema. And if you want, we could explain away the contradiction this way. Ha v'ha mishechashecha. In both cases, it's where the person climbed up after Shabbat had started at night. V'lo kasha. And we might say there's no problem. Kan b'shogeg, kan b'mezid. In one case, the person did it unintentionally, inadvertently. In another case, he did it mezid, deliberately. Okay? Let's try another explanation. And if you want, we would say, ha v'ha b'shogeg. In both cases, it was a situation of inadvertently. V'hacha bekanso shogeg atu mezid kemiflage. And here, they're talking about penalizing the person, okay, where there's inadvertent, lest it be done deliberately. And that's what they're arguing about. Namely, mar savar considem, namely one master holds that we do penalize, umar savar lo considem, and the other master holds that we don't penalize. Now, Amar Rav Huna, Berei de Rav Yehoshua, Ketanai. Okay, he says this is similar to a machloket tanaim, namely, hanitanin b'matana. Okay, we're talking about an example where blood is sprinkled on an altar. And in some cases, for some sacrifices, okay, like for a firstborn or tithe, you only sprinkle one sprinkling. Okay. In other situations, for example, for burnt offerings, you have to have 4 sprinklings, but you can do that by only actually sprinkling 2, okay, on each corner, because then you get all 4 sides in that manner. Okay, so we see as follows: Hanitanim b'matana achat. If one sprinkles in one, I'm going to say application. Shenit arvu b'nitanin matana achat. Okay, and the blood gets mixed up with other sacrifices, also of one application. Yinatnu b'matana achat. It's done with just simply one application. Matan arba b'matan arba. If a 4-way application gets mixed up with another 4-way application, yinatnu b'matan arba. Let it be done in the normal 4-way application. All right, one on 2 sides, one on 2 sides. Matan arba b'matan achat. Okay, if blood from a 4-way application gets mixed up with blood of a 1-way application, Rabbi Eliezer Omer yinatnu b'matan arba, v'Rabbi Yoshua Omer yinatnu b'matana achat. Here's our machloket tanaim, that Rabbi Eliezer says, no, in that case, you have to do it the 4-way application. And Rabbi Yoshua says, no, you do it the 1-way application. Now, continuing this machloket. Amar lo Rabbi Eliezer, he says, Harehu over al bal tigra. Okay, if you don't do it by 4, then you're transgressing the issue of limiting. Okay, you're over on bal tigra, on not doing what is required. Amar lo Rabbi Yoshua, Harehu over b'bal tosif. And Rabbi Yoshua argues, no, if you do 4 instead of the 1, you're transgressing the commandment of you should not add. Amar Rabbi Eliezer, lo omru ela kshehu ba'atzmo. They said that only when, right, we're saying that in that case, that the blood, right, doesn't diminish. Okay? Right? When you do it on its own. Amar lo Rabbi Yoshua, lo ne'amar bal tigra, ela kashahu atzmo. They said the prohibition not to diminish, also if it's only regarding the blood, that application of blood by itself. Va'od, and furthermore, Amar Rabbi Yoshua, says Rabbi Yoshua again, right? Mishanatata avarta al bal tosif. Okay, in that situation, not only have you made that application that you're transgressing the prohibition of not adding, va'asita ma'aseh biyadecha. You're also committing a positive act, okay, which is problematic, okay? Kashelo natata, if you don't put the application that way, avarta al bal tigra, you're over on not to diminish, velo asita ma'aseh yadecha, then at least you're not doing a positive act, okay? So it's one thing to refrain from doing a mitzvah. Let's say, Shei va'al ta'aseh, okay? right? That is viable, but not in another situation, okay? Now, the Rabbi Eliezer, the Amar Hatam Kum Aseh Adif, Hachanami Yarei. Okay, according to Rabbi Eliezer, who says that doing the act, okay, is what's preferred, then the person should come down from the tree, okay? Right? Because it avoids a more serious Avera. The Rabbi Yoshua, okay, the Amar Hatam Shei Va'al Ta'aseh, that Rabbi Yeshua says, stay there and don't do anything. Don't perform an action. That's what is preferred. Hachanami lo yirei. Here too, he should not descend. Okay? Dilma lohi, says the Gemara. But perhaps this isn't the right comparison. It's not the case. Ad kan lo ka'amar Rabbi Eliezer hatam kum aseh adif. Up to this point, Rabbi Eliezer has not said his preference is to perform an action. Okay? Why? Ela deka avid mitzvah. Only in a situation where we know the person is going to fulfill a mitzvah. Aval hacha, but here, de lo avid mitzvah, where he's not performing an actual mitzvah, but it's only, let's say, to prevent him from doing a greater avera, hachanami lo yered. Here too, perhaps Rabbi Eliezer might say he shouldn't come down. Ve'inami, or also, okay, we can say the following. Ad kan lo ka'amar Rabbi Yoshua hatam. That Rabbi Yoshua only says, excuse me, his preference, right, there of shei va'al ta'aseh, of sit and don't perform any act, that's the preference, okay? Ella, except the lo ka'avidi surah, when a situation is such that a person is going to commit a direct violation of al-hacha. But here in our case, the ka'avid isura, where he is going to commit a clear violation, okay, right? Surah hachinami di'ared, that maybe here too, we would agree that he should descend from the tree. Because if he stays up there, okay, that's still a greater violation than coming down. Okay. Now, Tani Chada, okay, we see here in one case, one Braita teaches, Echad ilan lach, ve'echad ilan yavesh. Maybe we're dealing with a situation, okay, where one tree is one translation is the fact that it is moist, and the other is that it's dry, okay? Or the moist, I'm going to say that the tree is a living tree, okay? It still blossoms. And the other, by dry tree, that it's, the tree is there, but it's dead, okay? No leaves on it, nothing on it. And so part of the concern might be that in coming down, he's going to break leaves or break branches off the tree. Vatanya idach, and another Braita teaches, B'med varim amurim. What are we talking about here? Okay, belach, and a moist, a living tree. Aval biyavesh mutar, but with a dry tree, in other words, a dead tree, and it's not so much of an issue, mutar. There it would be permitted. Okay? Now, let's go on. Amar Rav Yehuda, lo kasha. Maybe we don't have the problem here. Kan b'she giz'o machalif, where we have a situation where the trunk or the stump of the tree still regenerates, in other words, still puts forth branches, right?
Yeah.
Right? Kan b'she'en giz'o machlif. In the other situation where we say that the stump of the tree doesn't regenerate. Gaz'o machlif. If the the stump of the tree is still putting forth shoots, yavesh karatli, you're going to call that a dead trunk? Elet lo kasha. Rather, no, that's not the problem. What's the problem? Kan biyamot hachama. Here we're talking about during the summer months. Kan biyamot kshamim. Here we're talking about the rainy season, the winter months. Biyamot hachama, during the summer months, ha natre pire. Okay, it's going to be putting forth fruit. All right, right. Fruit's going to be dislodged if somebody comes down. The bedeleka pere, but when there is no fruit, vahakanatre kinse, and then if he comes down, okay, are we going to say in that case, all right, that in that case, if there is no fruit on it, okay, isn't there going to be something else dislodged, like twigs or branches? Bigaduda was saying about, no, we're talking simply about the bare stump, the bare trunk of the tree. Amy, is that really the case? Vaha Rav Igla la'afsita. And we have a story where Rav came to the town of Afsita. Va'asar bigaduda. And he made a prohibition around a bare stump. So the Gemara then says, Rav bak bik amatza. Okay, namely there, okay, that in that valley, okay, he found a tree that was without branches. That's what he found. V'gadar ba geder. And that's the reason that he put a fence around it to prohibit people from climbing on it. Now, get to a new piece. Amar Rami bar Abba Amar Rav Asi. Asur la'adam shehelech al gabe asavim b'Shabbat. It is forbidden for a person to walk on grass on Shabbos. Mishum shene'amar. Why? Because we have a pasuk, all right, that says va'atz b'raglayim choteh. Okay, that one who acts impetuously with his feet is a sinner. Tani chada, and another Braita teaches mutar lelech al gav asavim b'Shabbat. It's permitted to walk on grass on Shabbos. V'tanya idach asur, and another one teaches it's forbidden. Lo kasha. It's not problematic. Ha belachim. In one case, the grass is wet. Ha b'yaveshim. In another case, the grass is dry. Okay? Namely that with moist grass, it's one thing. Dry grass, okay, is permitted, but the wet grass may get stuck to the bottom of one's shoe or one's sandal and be pulled out. Ve'ibayat ema, and if you want, suggest it's this way. Hava habelachim. In both cases, it's with the wet grass. Velo kasha, and it's not a problem. Kan b'yamot hachama, kan b'yamot hagshamim. In one case, it's regarding the summer months. In another case, it's regarding the winter months. Ve'ibayat ema, and if you want, haba habiyamot hachama. In both cases, we're talking about the summer months. Velo kasha. Ha desiyem misane. In one case, we're talking about wearing shoes. Vaha delo siyem misane. And in another case, we're talking about not wearing shoes. Going barefoot, your toes may grab the grass and still uproot. Okay? Ve'ibayat ema. And let's try another case. And if you want, I might say, Vahadam desayim ma'ase misane. And if we're saying the person is wearing shoes, below kasha, and it's not a problem, ha deitle ukse, because in one case there may be a spike, okay, coming out of the shoes. Okay, think of, I don't know what, golf shoes, for example. All right. Ha delitle ukse. In another case, there are no spikes. V'ibayat ema. And if you want, I can explain it this way. Hava hada itle ukse. In both cases, the shoes have spikes. Hada itle sharcha. In one case, we have long grass, namely roots or leaves. Hada litle sharcha. In the other case, we don't have long grass, roots, or leaves. Va'idna, the kaimalan ka Rabbi Shimon. And now that today we hold like the view of Rabbi Shimon, which is when you do something and it's not an intent, okay, therefore it's permitted. Rabbi Shimon, kulhu shari, all of these issues are permitted. Okay? Now, new piece of Gemara. Va'amar Rami bar Chama, Amar Rav Asi, Asur le'adam she'yikof ishto le'davar mitzvah. Okay, we get into another whole area, different topic totally, and that is conjugal rights, okay, which remember are ideally to be fulfilled on Shabbat, okay? It is forbidden, he says, for a man to force his wife into relations on Friday night to satisfy his conjugal obligation. Shne'amar, why? Va'atz beraglayim choteh. Again, citing the same pasuk, one acts impetuously with his feet. Okay? The implication, of course, is his feet is a euphemism. Va'amar Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi, kol ha'kofeh ishto ledavar mitzvah, whoever forces his wife for this mitzvah, havyan lo banim she'enam mehuganim. He will not have sons who he will have unworthy, who are not of good character. Amar Rav Ika bar Chinana says, Ma'ikra, what pasuk do we have to support this? Gam below da'at nefesh lo tov. Okay? Citing the pasuk. Tanya nami hachi, and we have a braita which teaches this as well. Okay, gam below da'at, also without knowledge. Nefesh lo tov. Okay, there is no good soul. Zeha kofeh ishto v'davar mitzvah. This is the one who forces his wife to do this conjugal mitzvah. Ve'atz beraglayim choteh, citing the other pasuk. Zeha bo'el v'shoneh. This is one who has relations and then repeats further relations. Aini, is that really the case? V'ha'amar Rava, but didn't Rava say, Harotzeh la'asot kol banav zcharim, one who wants to have only male sons, yivol v'yishneh, should have relations and then a second time relations. Lo kasha, kan ladat, kan shelo ladat. Okay, in one case we talk with the cognizance, the awareness, the willingness of the wife. In the other, it's without her willingness, cognizance. Amar Rav Shmuel bar Nachmani, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Kol isha shetovat ba'ala ledavar mitzvah. Any woman who seduces, so to speak, or demands from her husband conjugal rights, okay? Havya la banim, in order to have sons. She'afilu b'daro shel Moshe, even in the generation of Moses, lo hayu k'motan, there would not be any like them. De'ilu b'daro shel Moshe k'tiv, because in regards to the generation of Moses, it's written, Havu lachem anashim chachamim univonim v'yudeim l'shivtechem. Okay, citing the pasuk that these people, okay, would be smart and not wise and understanding and known to their tribes. Uktiv, and then afterwards it's written, Ve'ekach et roshei shivtechem anashim chachamim v'yidu'im. Okay, another pasuk. All right, people of understanding, etc., etc. Okay, what happens? Ve'ilu nivonim lo eshkach. But in that situation, we did not find those who are truly of understanding. Right? Could not be found. Ve'elu gabe Leah. Okay, but wait a second, says the Gemara. What about during the example concerning Leah? It's written as follows: Ketiv, v'teitzei Leah likrato, v'tomer Elai tavo ki schar scharticha. Okay, wasn't that an example of a woman? I can't use the word exactly seducing, but encouraging her husband, petitioning her husband, right, for relations. Ukativ umibnei Yisachar yodei bina leitim ladat maya aseh Yisrael rosheim matayim v'kol achehem al pihem. Okay, again, citing a pasuk that her sons, namely Leah's sons Issachar, had understanding and things like that. They were chiefs, leaders. Aini, is that really the case? V'ha'amar Rav Yitzchak bar Avdimi. And didn't Rav Yitzchak bar Avdimi say, Eser klalot nitkala lechava? There were 10 curses that occurred to Eve. Okay? Dechtiv, as it says, El ha'isha amar harbe arbe, citing the pasuk that Hashem spoke to Eve, okay, namely that increase her suffering. Elu shnei tipei damim, those are the 2 drops of blood. Echad dam nida, ve'echad dam betulim. One the blood of nida, one the blood of virginity. Etzvonech, from the pasuk, your suffering. Zet sar gidul banim, that's the pain of raising children. Vaharonech, the pregnancy. Zet sar ha'ibur, that's the pain of pregnancy. Ve'etzev teldi banim kimashma'o, okay, with pain, as it says, you'll give birth to children, as stated. Ve'el ishat shukateh, okay, and to your husband you'll be attached. Milamed sha'isha mishtokeket al ba'ala, that the woman relies on her, to her husband. Okay? B'sha'ah sheyotzei l'derech, at a time when he goes on a trip. V'hu yimshal bach, okay? And that he will rule over you. Milamed sha'isha tovat b'lev v'ha'ish tovea b'peh. It implies that the woman may seek the relations in her heart, but a husband can seek the relations orally, verbally. Zohi midat tova b'nashim. But we also say that this is a positive attribute of women. Ki ke'amrinin demartzia arutse kame. Why? Because we say here that she'll act in some manner that's pleasing towards him. Okay? She'll put him in the mood, okay, so to speak. Hani Sheva Havya. And these then are really only 7 in number, these curses. Ki ata Rav Dimi amar atufa ka'avel. He explains it this way. Okay, that a woman covers herself the same way a mourner covers. Uminuda mikol adam. And she's separated, okay, from all people. Why? When she has to be needed. V'chavusha b'beit ha'asurim. And it's like she is put aside, locked up in a prison. Mai minuda bin kol ha'adam. What do we mean when we say she's separated from all people? Ilema, if we're going to say mishum da asir la yichud, that she's permitted from having relations. Ihunami isur le yichud. he also then is prohibited from relations. Ela da asira lebeitre, but rather we say that she is forbidden to marry two men, where a man can marry more than one woman. But matnita tana, and we have a Mishnah that teaches this in another way. Migadelet se'ar kelilit, that a woman lets her hair grow long like Lilith. V'yoshevet u'mishatenet mayim kebehema, and when she urinates, she has to sit almost like an animal. V'ne'eseit kar leba'ala, and when she has relations, if she's on the bottom, she's like a pillow for her husband. Ve'idach, and further, hani shavachi, but maybe this is considered praise for her. The Amar Rabbi Chia, because Rabbi Chia says, "My dichtiv," what's written here? Okay, the following, right? Milfanav mi bahamot aretz u'me'of hashamayim yechaka kemo. Okay, who teaches us through the animals of the land and makes us wise through the birds of the sky. Okay, what does that mean? Okay, zo prida shekorat mishtanenet mayim. It's like the female donkey, okay, that crouches when she urinates. Ume'of, and a bird, Hashem, birds of sky, yachkimu, learn wisdom. Zet tarnagol shemifayes, this is like the rooster that shows itself off, ve'achar kach bo'el, and afterwards has relations with the hen. Okay? Ma Rabbi Yochanan, says Rabbi Yochanan, Ilema lo nitna Torah, if the Torah had not been given, hainu l'medin sniut, okay, we would have learned modesty michatul, from a cat, the gezel minamala, and we would have learned the prohibition of stealing from an ant, va'arayot miyona, and we would have learned the prohibition about inappropriate sexual behavior from a dove, adultery. Derech eretz, and we would have learned the proper behavior from the rooster. Shemefayes v'achar kach bo'el, that the rooster appeases its mate by showing off, and then he has relations. Umay mefayes la, and how does he appease her? Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Rav, says Rav Yehuda in the name of Rav, Hachi ka'amar la, this is what it means. Zavnina lech ziga, I will buy you a coat, dematu lech ad karech, that goes all the way down to your legs. In other words, he shows off his plumage. The vatar hachi, after that, Amarla, it says to her, excuse me, lish matite lekar balte, okay, that if the hahu tarnagola, namely, he says to her after mating with her, may the comb or the crest of this particular rooster, of himself, may that fall off. Because why? Iitle, if I was able to buy the coat, I would. Below zavnina lech, but I am not able to buy such a coat for you. So this is how he appeases the hen in preparation to relations with it. And that's where the Gemara is going to end and go back then to our regular topic tomorrow on Kaf Aleph, Amud Aleph, with a new Mishnah. And we'll stop right there, guys. All right? Okay, everybody have a good Rosh Chodesh. Take care. Stay well, everybody.
Okay.
Good
Bye-bye.
So long.